So I am so excited to do this today. Video content has pretty much given me two businesses, and I'll explain that in a second. And I think it really is a magic weapon that brands can use to grow brand awareness and also to grow sales. And with every session I do, I aim to give you a load of hopefully golden nuggets you can take away and immediately implement to make a difference to your business. So I'm really excited to get into that today. Before I do, I just want to apologise if I sound slightly nasally. My 7-year-old has passed on a cold, so solidarity to anyone who is watching this with a lemon sip, and hello to everybody wherever you are in the world. So who am I? Why am I qualified to talk about this? So my first business is a business called Martha Brook. It's a stationery brand. It's a brand that started a decade ago in my bedroom. And we initially grew, we did quite well in some marketplaces, and then I decided to grow our own brand. And that really took off through social media and specifically Instagram. And from there, we built a business. And really, that started from people finding us and discovering us through social media, organic social media, which is, of course, entirely free. So, this is one of the things I love about this. I think that to grow a business, absolutely you need to do a lot of different marketing tactics, but most of them you have to spend a bit of money on, whereas this is entirely free. So, I'm really excited to share this with you today. I also advise businesses, big and small, on their marketing and particularly their social media. I'm really proud to be on the advisory council of the British Library, which advises their board, an ambassador for the business centre. And then last year, I decided to put my money where my mouth is and to see if I could do this again. And I just started another business called Business Secrets Club. I think some people here today who follow me over there. So hi, if that's you, say hi in the chat. And first of all, just decided just to put my toe in the water to start an Instagram account in secret. And so I did that last year, and I initially just posted video content. And I did that because I know that video content is the best for reach, it's the best way to reach non-followers. And I know that all these algorithms care about your average reach. And so I just posted videos, I just posted reels until I hit about 15,000 followers. And then I started to mix in other content. And it's gone really well. We're on 112,000 followers now. And I don't post that often, I only post about 3 times a week. And what I really care about is helping with that kind of quality content that helps you reach new people. But of course, it's not just about your follower count. What I really specialize in is helping business not just grow awareness, but also then convert those followers into sales. And that's what I've done with both my businesses. And that's what I really like to try and help other businesses too. And simplistically, if you want to use social media to do this, you kind of have to think about your content in two buckets. First of all, the content that grows your reach. So the kind of growth content that gets more eyes on you, it builds your awareness, it builds people finding out about you, and then content that will move somebody to take action and purchase from you. There's also another type of content that helps people build trust and get to know you, but I think for the purposes of this webinar, let's do it in two buckets. And having that distinction in your mind is really important because you can use social media for both of those two things, and particularly video content. And when you start to think about this distinction, it really helps you with the intent and purpose of your content and really helps you grow your business. The reason I love videos is because, first of all, it's the best thing for that growth content. It's the best way to reach new people. They always get pushed to non-followers video. Whatever platform you're on is the best way to reach new people. On most social platforms, for example, on Instagram, you've got Reels. On TikTok, you've got the main feed. On YouTube, you've got YouTube Shorts. They have their own little tab. They've got their own sections that really help you be more discovered as a business. And they have a really long lifespan. Unlike static content, you will find that video content will run for months, if not years. I have people still finding me from videos I've posted years ago. And from a selling perspective, they also are magical. If you're watching this and you're a product business, the best way, often product-based purchases on social media are impulse purchases. You follow a business, you get to know them, you trust them, and then suddenly something is put in front of you and you see what it looks like in real life. You see someone using it, you see somebody making it, and it tips you over into purchasing. And video content is amazing for that. And as a service business, you really can't beat video content for building trust. I'm sure some of you are here today because you've seen me talking at other things. You might have seen me in a reel. And that kind of face-to-face content, that video content is so much more dynamic and engaging and really, really helps you build that trust that then will take somebody from following you to trusting you and moving to become a paid user for whatever your service is. And I think to use social media really well now, short form video should form about half of your content. Why is that? Well, first of all, what is short form content? So it used to be about 60 seconds long, but all these platforms keep sort of pushing the limit. I think it's quite good to keep it under 90 seconds. Anything over than that, you do tend to lose people, but you can now go up to 3 minutes. I'm on TikTok, you can go even longer than that if you like. It's usually portrait, and usually it's that stuff you scroll through lots. You're meant to digest lots, one after the other. Easily digestible, you view lots by scrolling. So it's everything from Reels to YouTube Shorts to TikToks. You even get this now on Pinterest, Facebook Reels, Twitter, I refuse to call it X. Even on LinkedIn, short form video content is everywhere. So we're not talking about horizontal, long form video here, the sort of stuff you get on YouTube. We're talking about that short form, easily digestible, bite-sized bits of content. And what I want to do go through today, so whatever stage your business is at, is 12 tips which I think will really help you make that short form content work for you. Things that maybe you might know, things you maybe you don't know, but hopefully taking them in a slightly new way to help you really try this sort of content to help you reach new people and get them to buy from you. Does that sound good? Thumbs up in the chat. I'm relying on people monitoring the chat because I don't want to get distracted by it, and we'll come to the questions at the end. And at the end, I'm going to finish with 5 evergreen bits of content you can keep coming back to, and also we're going to do some questions. Okay, 12 game-changing tips for short-form video. If you've tried this before and you're not getting good reach, these are the things that make a difference. Okay, number 1, visibility comes from value. Now, I don't know whether you know this, there's a report that came out earlier this year that said for the first time ever in the UK, people are spending more time on their phones than watching TV. People now will decide in the evening, they'll pick their phone up and they'll scroll, they'll go through and they'll scroll on Reels, they'll scroll on TikTok instead of watching Netflix. It's become a form of entertainment. People will binge short form video content. People will spend 2-3 hours a day on social media. And this is on average, so people are spending more than that time. And they see it as a form of entertainment. Okay, so where am I going with this? Do you remember I said that you need 2 sorts of content if you want to use social media well as a business? That content that grows your audience, that content that moves somebody to buy. The content that grows your audience has to have some sort of value. It has to be interesting for people to watch. They're there scrolling, they're using it as a form of entertainment. And videos are the best content for doing that. But to get that visibility, it has to be something that's interesting for people to watch. And value in this context means that your video needs to either be inspiring, entertaining, educational, or build connection. It's got to fit into one of those 4 buckets. So I think a good chunk of your content needs to do this if you want to use social media well as a brand. I think this is where most businesses go wrong, is they think they're there on social media just to share their product and service and get people to buy. But actually, that's not why people log on. People don't log on to be sold to. It's like when you're watching Netflix and now they put those pesky ads in the middle. It's so annoying, isn't it? If you see something that's too promotional on social media, you just scroll past it. You want something that's going to give you something that's going to be interesting to watch, that's going to be engaging. And this can be either something that's created deliberately just to be value content. So I've been scrolling through some big brands as well as some small brands. And this is one from Marks and Spencer last year where they had Percy and Colin in their Wicked era. This obviously was posted when the Wicked films came out. It got millions of views. This they obviously did just purely for engagement and reach. It's not going to sell them any of their products. But you can also be really, really clever and turn pretty much anything you're talking about into valuable content by the way you post it. It could be your product, it could be your service, but just with a few tweaks, you can make it value content. So let me just show you what I mean by that. This was a really, really boring video about corporate orders. So this is the fact that we can put logos on notebooks for brands. Really boring. We were chatting in the team about this, and someone said, "Oh, we should remind people that we do this." And I was like, "Well, that would just do terribly on social." So if I said, "Oh, hey, did you know we also make corporate orders?" and showed a few of them, that would just not be valuable. That would not be interesting. But by adding a storytelling hook, POV, that means point of view, you started a stationery business in your bedroom and now you're making stationery by adding an audio that was quite pacey, it became inspiring, it built connection because it had a person in it, and it got over 1 million views. And it brought lots of people into us to find out about us, follow us, and also inquire about our corporate service. So you can be very clever and turn pretty much anything into inspiring, interesting, entertaining content just with a few tweaks. And that's what I'm going to show you in this webinar. So your job, should you choose to accept it, your mission, I've been watching Mission Impossible recently, is to make a proportion of your content valuable. So your job is to try and make your content either inspiring, entertaining, educational, or build connection, at least a chunk of it. And that's the stuff that's going to give you the visibility and help new people come to your page, but also help existing followers kind of remember that you're there. And hooks are not just how you catch attention, but they're also how you turn pretty much any boring video into a valuable one. Any social media platform will tell you that the most important part of your video is that first 3 seconds. And all of the algorithms look at the view rate. Well, you can see in your analytics, you get notifications like this. They look at that view rate past the first 3 seconds to see, are people watching this? And then they'll go, okay, people are watching this, we'll serve it to more people. So all you need to do is get people past those first 3 seconds and of course get them to the end as well. But let's start with the first 3 seconds first. So you've got 3 hooks. Don't neglect these. You've got your text hook. So that's the one that's on the screen at the start. Every video needs to have some sort of text hook. It has to last at least the first 3 seconds or the whole video. If it's like a short video and you've just got text that lasts the whole thing. You've got a visual hook. So in this one, instead of having boring corporate orders on the table, I had me walking into the frame and putting a notebook down. It kind of caught the eye. Something was happening. There was movement happening. And then you've got a third hook, which is your caption hook. Here I had pinch me moments. It added an extra element of emotion to help stop the scroll and to help people kind of connect and engage with the video. Those are your 3 hooks. And this could be a really dull video, but with just those 3 hooks, I've made it interesting. I just want to give you another example. This is an example from a service business, Blossom and Bloom Photography. So this lovely lady, I got this thing called the Clubhouse where I give people content ideas. And this was a content idea I shared in the summer, which was a sort of trending hook at the time, which was rich because. And she took this, I think she's got about 3,500 followers, and she posted this. It was about a 6-second video she had already of her taking photographs. And she posted it and added a hook. Rich because my office is wherever the light is perfect and the laughter is loudest. Isn't that so lovely? So she only has 3,500 followers. Go and follow her. She got over 100,000 views from this. And very cleverly, she had pinned to her page a bit of information about the fact she was doing these Christmas photo shoots for kids. And they sold out. I tried to book one myself because I love this video. And she had to add an extra date and that sold out as well. But just by adding this hook, it made the video into growth content. It made it into valuable content. So don't underestimate the power of that. This is a beautiful video, but it was the hook that really made it hit home and really made it impactful. I'm going to post you another one more. This is just a lady just sharing tips about how to grow a garden and the fact you have to plan your garden. That's not very exciting, is it? But she had a hook, which was, I'm going to keep posting these videos until every single gardener is aware that you need to plan your garden first to grow a lot of food. Really, really kind of dramatic and emotive hook. And also, you can see her caption tease. She's got "Hear me out." She's not spelt it correctly, but "Hear me out." And you want to then read the caption to understand what she's talking about. So those hooks can be magical for turning pretty much any video into something that is entertaining, interesting, inspiring. Now, one really important thing with a hook, and I don't know whether you've noticed this, and there's a little notification from Instagram here. They've recently changed their algorithm. And it says this reel has been shown to more people because more non-followers than usual are viewing past the first 3 seconds. What these algorithms are now looking at, and our Instagram sadly is no different, we can argue whether we like this or not, is they're looking at engagement from non-followers to decide whether to push your content out further. And that includes your followers, by the way. Stop the press on this. So this is literally just a new thing this year, and you're going to see this going forward. They will see, are people who don't know you engaging with this and decide whether to push your video out to followers and non-followers. So what does this mean? This means that with a proportion of your content, so all of that content that you want to get that high reach, you want to get that high visibility, the content that you want to bring people into your page or get high views on, it has to make sense to somebody who doesn't know you. So it has to stand alone. You see that video, you see that hook, you see the wording, you see what's happening on the screen. And you need to almost imagine every time you do one of these sorts of reels that you're talking to somebody like it's their first time meeting you. They're scrolling, they've never seen your account before. So you're not going to say, I wouldn't say for my stationery business, oh, here at Martha Brook we do this, because no one knows who Martha Brook is. This is a really great example from this coffee brand. Morning routine is a 21-year-old who just went for it and opened his own coffee trailer. I instantly know what's happening with this video. This video did extremely well. So you can do this in two ways. You first of all, obviously, you need to go, why am I going to watch this? Like, what are you giving me? What's interesting about this? And you've got a teaser that's going to help somebody watch this or read the caption. But secondly, you can help people put your video into context by sort of saying who you are, like what's your unique perspective, like who are you giving this advice? Like we can all get advice off Google, right? But what you want to know is like, who's the person I'm scrolling? I want to instantly know who they are. And obviously, by having you in the frame, that instantly does it. But you can see he's explicitly said morning routine is a 21-year-old. And you can see, even in these other examples I've shown, you can see the lady here planting her garden. You can see the lovely lady here taking her photographs. You can see me running my stationery business. I'm giving that human connection. I'm giving that unique perspective. The other way you can do this is you can try and put it in context for the person who's scrolling and talk to them. So you can describe them. So you can say, if you are a mum who's really struggling after birth and your baby won't sleep, you can literally describe them. And that's another way of helping somebody put it into context and know why it's relevant to them. So think about how you can connect with somebody who doesn't know who you are for a proportion of your content and don't post things that are like super niche or just going to be aimed at people who already know who you are, using very technical language or very complex concepts. Like I don't let my 7-year-old use Instagram, but if she did, she would need to read your hook and understand what it's all about. And once you start, if you scroll on the Reels tab at the viral Reels or scroll on TikTok at the viral TikToks, you'll see that everyone that goes viral does this. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Okay, so you've got somebody past the first 3 seconds. You've hooked a stranger in. You've hooked somebody who follows you in. It's made me curious. It's made me want to watch this. There's something interesting happening. And now you really want to keep them watching. So watch time is actually the most important thing with the algorithms. So on Instagram, they care who gets past the first 3 seconds, but they also care how many people get to the end of your video. TikTok, it's slightly different. They actually care the length of time you watch for. And what you'll notice on TikTok, if you use TikTok, is that you find that longer videos tend to do quite well. And that's because you get sort of bonus points if you get somebody past a minute, and you don't do that on Instagram. That's why you'll see just videos of people just sitting there talking, a little bit less dynamic, tend to do really well because they're rewarding you for keeping somebody watching past that minute. Whereas it's not the same on Instagram. Instagram tends to be a bit shorter and snappier. Now, people, when they scroll, they tend to just, mindlessly scroll. So if you want to stop them and you want to keep them from scrolling on, you have to interrupt their pattern of scrolling. That's called pattern interruption. And pattern interruption is actually a really interesting technique that applies to all of your marketing. Like if you're like scrolling down your inbox and you've got loads of spammy emails, you need your email to jump out. And it's the same on socials. And you do this by being a little bit unexpected. You either have to have some sort of movement, like movement is really important at the start of your video, and movement throughout. Like always look when you're filming stuff for where you've got the movement. Either move you'll notice that any video that does well, there's either the camera moving or the person moving. So you've always got to make sure in every one of your clips there's some sort of movement. You either create it with your camera or you look for it in the scene that you're filming. If it's not that interesting, you want to keep the pace of the reel and make something new happen on the screen regularly by making your clips shorter. The shorter your clips, the more it sort of tricks the brain into kind of sticking with it and watching it. And you can also use sort of unexpected elements, unexpected sound effects that sort of keep you watching, and you sort of like, oh, you sort of you stop from scrolling on, you just carry on watching because something's happening on the screen. And actually what breaking the pattern of the mindless scroll does is it refocuses someone's attention and it creates that opening for them to engage with you. And you'll notice that any good video does this. If you watch any talking video that gets pushed out widely, they use these tricks to keep you watching. Now, I'm constantly trying with this. This is one I posted yesterday. I'm just going to show you the first 10 seconds. You'll see I move into the frame. So I've got that movement. I have overlays that pop up. So I've got elements on the screen that pop up and I've got sound effects all within that first 10 seconds to try and keep somebody with me. Let me just show you what I mean. Oh, is it going to work? Okay, if this doesn't work, you go back and watch the video I posted yesterday. You'll see I move into the frame and then I've got overlays, which are like graphics that pop up on the screen. They've got little pop, 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 pop. And it sort of like stops you and you're like wondering what's happening. And then you just carry on watching. And that's called pattern interruption. And you can do this with anything. If you're posting a video that's like 5-6 seconds long, you don't need to do it. But if you're posting anything that's like more than that, you need to interrupt what people would naturally do, which is to scroll on, either with new things coming on the screen, some sort of dynamic elements. And if you watch Reels, you'll notice that they all do this, or you watch TikToks, you'll notice that they all do this. Okay, tip number 5. Your content, short form video, does not need to be professionally produced. In fact, I would say that if it's filmed with a professional camera, it actually does less well. I mean, there are some exceptions to that, but on the whole, it's absolutely fine to film with your phone. However, I hate to tell you this, you might have spotted this, but quality does matter. And what you'll find is that these algorithms do downrank your content if the quality isn't very good. I know. And also, if you're not getting good engagement, they actually make the quality less. That isn't a true fact. So it does need to be high quality. And I can't stress this enough, but quality starts with filming. Like you can only edit so much, you know that. Like you can make your video brighter and a bit nicer, but it's all about the film. Wipe your camera lens every time you film anything. Like that will make the biggest difference. I think people forget this. Get a cloth, wipe your lens, because you can always tell when someone's not done this because their video is slightly murky. You might have accidentally put a thumb over it. Always look for the natural light. Like overhead lights are just yuck. Always try and be near a window or near some natural light if you can. If you have to use overhead lights, fine. I have to do that when I film for my business in the studio, but always try and get as natural light if you can. Your back camera is the quality is so much better than that front camera. So always try and film with the back camera if you can. I think the exceptions to that would be like a talking video where you're talking face to face. But other than that, really try and use that back camera. Try and film in a high quality setting. So for Instagram Reels and for TikToks, the quality needs to be at least 30 frames per second and 1080 pixels. But what you'll, I think that's what the P stands for. I tend to do 4K at 30 frames per second because I find that that's the best. And I find that that really keeps the quality when you upload. And you just literally go into your video settings and adjust that. And you'll find that that really, really makes a difference to quality. Also turn off HDR video because that just makes your videos look horrible. As soon as you've got that off, you'll notice the difference. It does something weird to like shadows and darker colours. The other thing that I would say is that your phone gives you zoom presets. So you can click 1x2 zoom, 2x zoom, 3x zoom. And those keep your video the best resolution. If you try and just like manually scroll, it goes it's slightly blurry. And actually, when you film something on 2x or 3x zoom, it looks lovely. So really use those. Come do closer in shots, do further out shots, and you'll really see that your video feels much more dynamic. And that the first time you're ever uploading a TikTok or a reel, you'll see on the screen where you're uploading it, you can click a button that says enable high quality uploads. Once you turn that on, it stays on forever. Make sure you've got that turned on. And all of those things will really make a difference to the quality of your video. And these algorithms do care about quality. They're small things, but they make a big, big difference. Okay. The next thing I would say, do you remember I said there's 4 things people look for? It needs to be inspiring, entertaining, educational, or it needs to build connection. And it might surprise you to know that Instagram done a massive survey of their billions of users. And the number one reason that people come and use the platform, and in fact, they use pretty much any social media app, apart from things like X you might use for news, they come for connection. That's the reason that they use it. They come to be connected to the world. They come to be connected to their friends. They come to be connected to brands they follow. They come to just be connected to something bigger than themselves, sitting at home on their phone. And you can do this so much better than a bigger brand can. I think all of us watching this are small businesses, and we have got so much power over big brands because it's really hard as a big brand to build connection because you're a big faceless business, you're very corporate. Whereas as small businesses, we have the power of stories, we've got the power of human connection. And I can't tell you how important this is. People also will say to you, oh, valuable content is inspiring, it's educational, it's entertaining. But no, that connection content is just as important. And that could either be something that's really relatable, that makes your target customer feel seen and heard. It feels like you're talking exactly to them. They're like, oh, God, yeah, that's so me. Or it could be that you're showing up personally, you're being human, and you're making people feel involved in your journey. And connection is so important because if you think about that funnel of people buying from you, they hear about you for the first time, they need to know and trust you, and then you're going to tip them over into buying from you. And connection is the thing that helps them get to know you, helps them kind of believe in you and trust you, and then be prepared and in a state that they will buy. So you'll see I do this a lot on all of my social channels. I either use storytelling. So instead of saying, "Oh, hey, here's what we've done today," I'll make it into a story with a storytelling hook. So when you ignore the part about it being too hard to manufacture in the UK, and then I showed some of us kind of how we make our products. that would be boring in itself, but with a storytelling hook, it becomes really interesting with a person in the frame. If remember, I said people use Instagram like it's Netflix. Be the main character. Be somebody that they can connect with. If it's not you, if you're worried about that, use somebody else in your business. Use your dog. Use your partner. Have characters that people can connect with and get to know, and that really really makes a difference. I do this a lot on Business Secrets Club. My account for business owners was I do quite relatable content where I try and talk to the business owners and how I think they might be feeling because it's how I feel too, and that lands really really well and helps people connect with me. So constantly, if you're stuck with content, constantly come back and think, oh, what would my target audience relate to, or how can I talk about my story in a way that helps people connect with me? And if you're trying to connect with people every week, that's more important than selling because people, you'll be surprised if you connect with people, people will then come and look at your paid offers. Okay, use trends strategically. So I want to come back to this example I gave from Blossom and Bloom Photography. So as I said, this was an example I gave in my content ideas thing I have called the Clubhouse. This was a sort of trending hook, and she executed it so beautifully. And what you'll find is that if content is sort of relevant or topical, people are more likely to engage. So if you talk now about anything to do with Halloween, anything to do with autumn, anything to do with Christmas, people are kind of feeling like that themselves, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's so me. I really relate to that. What you kind of need to understand a little bit is that there are these things on social media called lightning trends that sort of bubble up really quickly and then they disappear again and they kind of be gone in a few days. You don't want to be doing those all the time. They can be quite fun. They can give you a bit of an engagement boost, but they're not necessarily going to help you grow your sales. So you want to be strategic with when you jump on those. Make sure that things are right for your niche, your brand, and your audience. Mix up those evergreen ideas, those things that are really important for your business that help you get your brand across, that help you get your products across. But don't forget to give your content a seasonal spin. What you will find is that things that a lot of people are talking about will help you just give that a bit of an engagement boost. So look out for stuff that's topical. Um, keep an eye on things that people are talking about and have room in your marketing calendar for those. Absolutely plan ahead. So you can plan now. You could probably plan your content to Christmas of the things you want to be talking about, but make space for things that feel kind of current and now. If you remember, I showed this example earlier from Marks and Spencer. This is them doing exactly that. Obviously, Wicked was all about pink and green. We had the Good Witch and the Bad Witch, and they played on this. They had some audio, and it was really, really fun. And that was when Wicked came out. So you'll see when Wicked 2 comes out, you'll see a lot of brands jumping on that, or the next Bridgerton series is coming up, you'll see a lot of people jumping on that. So you can sometimes predict trends, like you could have predicted that people will be talking about Taylor Swift's album, but sometimes you can't. So kind of keep an ear on the ground. You don't have to do this all the time, but every now and again it's quite good to mix in a bit of relevant and topical content. But also don't forget you can make things relevant by the wording that you use and specifically talking to your target customer, and then they think, oh yeah, that's just how I'm feeling right now. SEO. So all social platforms now work like search engines. And what you'll also see is that video content now feeds into Google. So if you search for like a question, so if you search for, say you were a children's craft kit business and you're looking for like a Halloween craft to do with your kids this half term, perfect. You go to Google and you be like, oh, Halloween children's easy craft idea. And you'll be searched a whole load of blogs, a whole load of websites, but you'll also be searched now a whole load of short form video that's feeding in from TikTok, it's feeding in from Instagram, it's feeding in from YouTube. So don't neglect SEO in your content because not only does it help you be more discoverable on platforms like Google, it also helps you be discoverable on the social platforms themselves. Because the way that these platforms work now is they categorize your content by the words you use. So the keywords, a little bit like if you're doing keywords on your website. So the text you put on the screen, your caption, your subtitles, your hashtags, they look at all these things to categorize your content. So in a very simplistic way, say you wanted to be high up the ranking, you think, what's that person going to be searching for? So say it was Halloween craft, that would be a keyword, Halloween craft. And you want to mention Halloween craft in your caption. Hashtag Halloween craft, that's another way of adding it. Mention the word Halloween craft in your hook or in the words that you say on the screen. So all of those things get pushed into the algorithm. It's scanning it using its AI tools. And then when somebody searches for Halloween craft, your video will pop up. Or if they search in Google for Halloween craft, your video would pop up. So it used to be just a case of being like, just posting stuff. think about what a customer would search for, think about your SEO. With every bit of content I post, I think, right, what's my search term? And I make sure I've got that all the way through my things. And you'll see if you search for stuff like, often for both my businesses, I appear quite high in the Instagram search, and I can see in my content the number of people coming into each piece of content from search. And that's really, really interesting. It really helps you be discoverable. But importantly, it helps the algorithm decide who to serve your content to. And that's what you want. Okay. So yes, absolutely, I do create simple bits of content in TikTok, simple bits of content in Instagram, but more often than not, I use an editing app. And there are loads of video editing apps. I mean, you can all comment in the chat about which ones you use. There's like CapCut, which is super fancy, InShot, one that I quite like called Velo, and Edits, which is a new one from Instagram. And the reason that these are helpful is that I don't know about you guys, but editing stuff is so boring. I quite like the filming, I quite like the posting, but the editing is like, it takes a bit of time sometimes, doesn't it? And actually, when you've got a video editing app, it just makes it easier. And what you can then do is you've got that content made, download it, and you can whack it on loads of different platforms. You can repurpose stuff, which I'll talk about in a second. If you're new to this and you've never used one, like Edits is a really good one to start because it's very, very simple and straightforward, and it integrates quite nicely with Instagram. If you want to go all whizzy, have it on your desktop, like CapCut's a good one, but you've got to pay for it. If you want to try something that's quite simple, Velo is also a good one. But I mean, Edits is a good one to start with, and it just makes it so much more easier. It also means for things like, I talked about adding overlays in your video or sound effects or, transitions or playing with your clips. It just makes it easier. And the only really way to learn about this is to download it and play with it and just try and make a few videos. And it does get so much easier. Like I can make quite complicated videos quite quickly now, but it's still, if I want to do a very complex video, it still will take me a while. So just find one that you like, fall in love with it if you can. And it does make editing much, much easier. There's no right or wrong for this. It's whichever one works for you. Like some people find CapCut overwhelming. Some people really love it. But yeah, a good one to start with is Edits if you're new to this. It definitely makes editing easier. Repurposing. So I would generally advise when you start on social media, like not to try and do everything because it's just too much, especially if you're a single-handed business owner. I like say pick one social media platform, get your head around it, do it really well. And that was the best advice that anyone ever gave me when I started social media. It was a lovely lady called Alison from Avocado Social. We're still in touch. And she said, Martha, do Instagram. I'm so glad she did that because I put my head down. I worked on my Instagram for my stationery business until I got to my 10,000, my 20,000 followers. In fact, I think it was until I got to 50,000 followers, and then I started to look at other social media platforms. And that allowed me to really understand what worked. I think when you get a bit distracted by trying to understand every algorithm on every platform, because they are all slightly different, it can feel really overwhelming. But repurposing is great. So it doesn't, if you're not, even if you're not on these other platforms, every now and again, just take your video and whack it on there. And you can take the same video and post in different places. So obviously Instagram and Facebook, they link, and now it's very easy. If you post on Instagram, it can just straight away go through to Facebook. You'll find you'll get views on Facebook, like, whoa, who are those people? Where have they come from? But also just even if you're not using TikTok, set up a TikTok account, post on there. You don't need to spend a load of time on it, but just repurpose your videos on there. So this was just a reel I posted earlier this year, and it was just meant to be an Instagram reel, but it ended up getting like 1 million views on Facebook, and it ended up getting more views on TikTok than it did on Instagram. So you never know where people are going to see your content. So do repurpose stuff, but don't worry about understanding every platform because you will go slightly mad. The other thing about repurposing is that people need to hear things more than one time. And people need to be shown things more than one time. So what I really try and do is repurpose ideas, repurpose concepts. So this was just an idea that I had for a reel that I thought had potential, which was like showing one of my refillable notepads. And I think I tried it a few times, and eventually I managed to get the viral reel. I got the 4.8 million views. I knew it had potential, but I couldn't make it land at first. And it was by changing the hook, by changing the opening of the video, and it took off. It was a slightly contentious hook. I knew it was a contentious hook. It said, I don't know he needs to hear this, but you don't need to keep buying new notepads. Now, obviously, you're going to have to keep buying your refills. So it was like people were like, well, are you still buying your refills? But it was very satisfying to watch, and it did really, really well. And I do this a lot with Business Secrets Club, whereas I have got something like a tip that I want to give people. And sometimes I'll say it, and people maybe won't necessarily hear it, and I'm like, oh, I've not explained that very well, and then I'll say it again and again and again, and eventually it will land. And you just have to try things in different ways, like repurpose and repeat good ideas. I can't stress that enough. And sometimes people need to hear things a lot to say, oh, I get this now. I'm going to come and buy from you. Oh, I've seen that product before. That's it again. I'm going to buy it. So don't just try things once. Like get into the habit of constantly repurposing stuff, repurpose clips, repurpose ideas, try things in a different way. Don't be downhearted if it doesn't work first time. And leading on from that, like your analytics are amazing. I think Instagram now is the best analytics of any social media platform. And I can't stress this enough that you just have to experiment and build on the things that are working. And look, where do people like your content? You can see that now. Where do people drop off? Where do people scroll on? You can toggle your views between followers and non-followers and look at where they the view rate. So you can see where the non-followers are falling off and you think, okay, that hook wasn't working for non-followers, but it was working for followers. So how can I change that? Dig into your analytics and get into the habit of doing this every month. Look back over the last month. What brought me in most follows? What brought me in most traffic to my website? And when you start to build on what works, it really is amazing. With my stationery business, like we had one reel that did kind of quite well behind the scenes, and I thought, oh, that it's an okay. But I just kept building that, I kept building that, and eventually I managed to get, one that went to almost 1 million views, and it brought me 10,000 follows. And it was just through like continually building on trying to improve it each time. So don't just think post one time and move on. Keep trying to learn from what you've done, learn from other people, and try things in different ways and look at your analytics every month because they really are amazing. Double down on what works, lose the stuff that doesn't, and you'll start to find the things that work for your niche and work for your people because it's slightly different for every account. And before I go into my 5 evergreen content ideas, I just want to say always come back to what's my one message here? Kind of what's my action I want people to take? I think sometimes we're really in danger of overcomplicating content, aren't we? Like we try and fit so much in. We try and tell people a lot of stuff, but always come back to, okay, what's the one thing I want people to take away? And what's the one action I want people to take? If you're not clear on that, your followers, your people who see your content won't be. So your action could be that you want them to go and discover your product, or it could be you want them to come and follow you. It could be that you want them to come and sign up to your newsletter. Like, what's your one action? And what's your one message? Like, ask yourself that for every video. And that really helps you be very single-minded about getting that message across. And I think sometimes the daunting thing with creating content is you're kind of not sure what to do or what things to talk about. And I would say if you're not sure what to create, start by capturing. So just get into the habit of filming a load of little clips. So B-roll is something where instead of you talking to the camera, so instead of me just doing a video where you talk to the camera, and those sorts of videos are great, but they're not going to be your mainstay of your content. Start to film videos behind the scenes of what you're up to. So you in action, you in context, you doing your job, and that's called B-roll. It's like a bank of the stuff that puts your business into context. Pick a day and film a load of that back to back. Maybe when you're feeling not like a cold like I am today, and not like you haven't slept, but a day that you're feeling kind of or half decent. The light is quite good. Like today would not be a good day to film, and just film a load of clips, like 10 to 20-second clips. And then when you've got an idea, you've got a bank of video to use because there's nothing worse than having an idea and thinking, oh, I need to film, and it's really difficult to then do that if you're doing that from scratch. So start by capturing, save folders on your phone with like different topics. And so I might have an idea and I just got all these folders on my phone. I can just pull a load of my own B-roll and I can make something from the videos I have already. And most importantly, be authentic, show up personally and consistently. People connect with people. Like people can tell when you're being authentic. People can tell when you're being personal. I bet the best accounts you follow that are small businesses, there is a person there being their authentic self. Everything doesn't need to be perfect. I think if you're having fun, that really does come through the screen. Okay, if you're stuck for ideas before we do questions, I've got 5 evergreen content ideas you can come back to again and again. These slides, this will all be sent round, but feel free to screenshot this. So number 1, I've said this before, tell a story. This works so well for video content. Tell your story. Why did you start? Or how did you start? Or why did you start? Maybe how your story behind your product or your service, a lesson that you've learned, and use some sort of storytelling hook. So either you could do this in videos and just have a storytelling hook at the start of the screen, or you could use some voiceover. Voiceover also works really well. This is a hook I came up with for my to tell the story of my product business, and a lot of the Business Secrets Club community have used it and done really well with it. So you put your time frame, however many years ago, however many months ago, what you did, and then this is what happened, and then you show some videos of what happened after, or you add some extra words onto the screen to tell people what happened. People know that sort of framework is an opening to a story, creates curiosity. It helps give your unique perspective, and people then want to watch to find out what happens. That's a really good one to start with if you're struggling. Answer a common question. Look in your comments, look in your DMs for stuff that's people answering. You can either on Reels or TikTok press reply to a comment, and then your comment comes up as a little blob at the top of the screen. Or you can just put your question or your comment in inverted commas. It's a really lovely lady called business called Kid Hooray. She, know she's watching this. I mentioned this as an idea. She had somebody comment saying, "Oh, I don't think your products are really handmade." So she took that and she put it in inverted commas, and she said, "It said your products aren't really handmade." Or whatever the comment was, and then she just showed her literally hand making the products, and this got like millions of views. And she messaged me and said, I've now got so many orders that I had to turn my orders off for the rest of the year for just literally from this one video. So anything that's like a negative comment, people love, but it can just be a comment. You'll see my video yesterday was a question that somebody had asked. And these are really good questions because obviously, do you remember I told you they feed into Google? So if you've got a question that's a common question, it's really good for SEO, feeds into Google, and also can help people then discover you and discover your website. This is a really good thing. So look for those questions that people ask, and every now and again pick one and do a video on it because you know that's something that your target audience are interested in. Third idea, make people feel like they're getting an exclusive. Take them behind the scenes. That's one of the brilliant things about video content, that big businesses really can't do this. So either you can give them a little sneak peek of something you're working on, something that is coming up to launch, make them feel really involved. Or you can just show the normal behind the scenes of your business. So this is a hook that I gave, and some people have jumped on. Like when then you say what you're doing, or when you run a handmade business, or when you do X, Y, and Z. What people don't see is, and then you show the kind of behind the scenes bit. Do a few short clips after that, and that always works really well. Don't forget that saves and shares are great for the algorithm. Give one simple but useful tip, and people, oh, yeah, that's great. Light bulb moment, save it, share it, and those always do well. So kind of think, oh, what could my target customer really find useful? What maybe people might not know? And one little hook you could use for this, I don't need to know who needs to hear this, but and then you put all of that, you then would fill that in, and all of that would be in the first thing. So I don't need to know who needs to hear this, but wiping your phone camera makes an enormous difference to Reels. Let me just show you the difference. Make people curious to carry on and watch. Lastly, call out your ideal follower. Talk to them. So I've done this before. Like, Pov, you're a busy business owner who wants to grow with video content, but finds the editing process extremely painful. And then you find my account. As people are, oh yeah, that's so me. Literally call out what their pain points are, who they are, and then it will really help the algorithm serve you to those people, but also help people go, yes, this is the account that I want to follow. 5 evergreen ideas. Try these again and again, and you'll see that they always bring people in. Okay. If you want to know more, I'm going to do a whole load of questions now. Often the questions is where the gold is. So if you want to know more from me, just really quickly, and then I'll do questions. I've got this thing called the Clubhouse where I give weekly content ideas. So you get stuff like that. You get like 8 every week, but also trending stuff. And then also I've got an Instagram course that 1,000 businesses have done, and you can find both in my Instagram bio. And now feel free to ask me anything you like.
Thank you, Martha. That was so good. I feel like I was jotting down notes the whole time. I'll have to rewatch it. Never mind everyone else.
I probably talked too quickly.
No, you didn't. It was great. You did loads in the time, and everyone seems to be loving it and saying how it's like really narrowed it down what to focus on.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
And you have lots of questions already.
Oh, good. I was trying not to look at the chat because I knew I'd get terribly distracted. So I thought it was going to be
it's hard to keep up with, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll start from the beginning. So you'll be jumping back a bit to some of the stuff you were first talking about.
That's fine.
First one was for Instagram, they tend to post videos for their stories, but from what you were saying, is it better to post them on your grid instead?
Yeah, so story content is quite different to grid content. So story content can be a bit more informal, rough and ready. Doesn't need to be perfect. It can be a bit longer. Grid videos will tend to be a bit more short and snappy. Grid videos get infinitely more reach than stories videos. So grid, you can't reach non-followers. They're not going to get pushed out with your stories, whereas you can with your grid videos. So absolutely, you should be posting videos on your grid. If you're new to this, like start with 1 a week or start with 2 a week. But your videos on your grid are of any content the best thing that you can do to reach non-followers, because they always get served to non-followers instantly, and if they're engaging, they get pushed wider. So They really are a magic tool. So definitely post some videos on your grid, leaning into some of the things I've talked about today. All the stuff I've talked about today, don't need to do that on stories. You can just whack anything on there. But you do need things like hooks. You do need things like that storytelling when you're posting stuff, because it's going to people who don't know you, who are scrolling fast.
We're all guilty of it, you know. If I'm
Oh,
not
of
interested, I'm just
course.
next one.
We all do it, don't we?
Someone asked if they for TikTok, would you recommend setting it up as a business account or just as a normal personal account?
So I have got them set up as both to test. It doesn't really make much difference. The thing with a business account is that obviously you can't use certain audio. So
Yeah.
what TikTok will do is that they spot you're a business, they convert you to a business account, and everything. So
Take the old music, right?
I know. So I started a personal account if you want, but they probably will convert you to a business account. And the only difference is that your audio is restricted. But actually, to be honest, it's quite good to have as business account, because then you can use TikTok Shop, which for
Yeah.
a lot of businesses is really game changing.
Yeah.
TikTok Shop is growing. It's probably the fastest growing element of any social media channel right now. And TikTok are pushing it hugely. So it's worth signing up as a business, because then you can start to explore that as a possible e-commerce channel. So, but it doesn't really matter for reach. But if you want to use the other elements of TikTok, I would set it up as a business.
Yeah. I mean, also if you set up as business from the get-go, when you get transferred over, then you're
Yeah,
always
then you lose all your audios. So it's better. It's honestly better to probably just to start as a business, to be honest.
fab. And then there was a couple that were, is there any specific kind of tips for LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah, good question. So, are we fans of LinkedIn? I literally have no shame now with Instagram and TikTok. I literally will not care. But with
Exactly.
LinkedIn, I get really in my head on LinkedIn. I think it's because I had a corporate life before this. I'd like worked for 8 years for a very big, well-known business, and all my old corporate colleagues, I was pretty much all still in that company. And I just feel so cringe posting stuff on LinkedIn. So I'm like, hey, here's me doing my silly little videos. So I think for LinkedIn, video content is really it's a growing thing over there. So I think just experiment, do that repurposing thing. I think still remember that it's like a business platform. I think still
Yeah.
remember that it's best for B2B. So don't
Quite
really use
small.
it as like I'm trying to get my customers. Use it as storytelling about my business,
Yeah.
and storytelling if you're a B2B business, fantastic. If you're a B2C business, more use it to talk about your values, like how you do things, like how you started, like stuff your day to day, as opposed to kind of that I'm selling to my customers content. So just like switch the angle. The best thing to do is to follow a load of brands and watch what they do, and follow kind of people who are really good at the kind of personal branding side of things. I would say that setting up as a personal LinkedIn is brilliant. And you can start to grow your reach and your followers. And I have to say I've been really inspired by this. I've really been anti LinkedIn, but I did a podcast like a month ago with two people who basically they've grown their whole business just from LinkedIn. So it's
Yeah.
definitely inspired me to give it a bit more of a go. But I just need to get everyone else is cringe about Instagram, but for me the cringe is LinkedIn. So I just need to get past that.
No, I am guilty. I find LinkedIn, it's almost like it's like a professional Facebook almost, isn't
Oh, I just can't. I
it?
can't deal with it. I don't know why. I just don't know why.
No, that's great. Someone had asked if you had any tips for someone who is starting and they're more of an introvert, so like any like easy
Yeah.
ways to start up with all the videoing and things like that.
It's really hard. Like I really can relate to this. I mean, I used to be completely the same. I know that sounds crazy if you look at anything I do now. So yes, it's really hard. So the best advice I can give you is that to imagine there's like an internet persona version of yourself. So you've got you. The version you put online is not actually you. It's like a more confident, whatever you want to be, like step into that person. Like imagine. So there's a really brilliant lady I follow who does kind of confidence tips, and she calls it the Batman effect. So like you've got the different version of you, like you're almost putting your cape on. So I don't see the version I put of me. I used to not see that version as me. I used to be like I was taking one for my team. I was putting myself out there, but now it sort of has become me in a
Yeah.
weird way. So don't see that as you. Like try and see that slightly separate. But also, as you get better at doing these things, as you get more confident with the skill side of things, as you've done more of them, you actually get more confident. So the best thing you can actually do, I know it's really painful, is to push through that feeling as much as you can. Like just try. And it does feel really uncomfortable, but the only way to grow and learn is to push through that uncomfortable feeling. And the more you do it, honestly, the easier it gets. Like I used to really, really worry about this stuff, but I've stopped. I don't worry about it anymore. So pick days where you feel maybe more confident in yourself. Try and see it as a separate version of you, and know that literally everyone feels like, honestly, everyone feels like that. Like, and that's completely normal. You're not alone. It's not. It doesn't mean you're not capable or are able to do it. It's very much a familiar feeling to a lot of us.
I can imagine almost like doing the first one or two is like because you're also probably thinking, oh my God, who's going to see it? What people going to
Yeah,
do? Once
definitely.
once you've got a couple out, you probably get a bit more comfortable with it all.
Yeah, definitely.
So any suggestions for finding out what people are searching on Instagram, like to make sure you're like hashtagging the right things or kind of getting the right attention?
Yeah, really good question. So one thing that's quite interesting is you can look. There are things like Google Trends, which are quite interesting. So if you're not signed up for it, if you can sign up for Google Trends UK or Google Trends Global, and they send you an email every week with the sort of stuff that people are searching for, and often that kind of goes across into it kind of leaps across on the social platforms. The other thing is just to have a little bit of a scroll, and you'll see stuff that's topical bubbling up. And I know that's really exhausting to do, but it does really help. And what you can also do is put your niche or put one of your keywords into the Instagram search bar, and it suggests a load of stuff.
Mhm.
So, for example, you could put in crafts, and then it might come up with, oh, Halloween crafts or crafts for
Yeah.
kids, or it suggests a load of keywords for you. Um, and actually, it's quite good at telling you things that people are searching for right now. So actually play with that Instagram search bar because it will literally tell you keywords and then you can click on those and see whether those are relevant to you, and then it will suggest different keywords. So like use that bar because it's very good. It's the same on TikTok is a bit better because it will, if you go onto the page and click on it, it will actually tell you stuff that's trending that
Yeah,
people are
brings
searching for.
trends.
And it's actually quite good as a business because you can click into it and it will tell you stuff where there's not a lot of content but people are searching for, and that's really valuable. We've not got that insight yet on Instagram, but you can still use the search bar and it will suggest some stuff, but it doesn't tell you the trending search terms at the moment.
On that, someone kind of popped in the question as you were answering. So, do you find that using the hashtags is still really like valuable and relevant? Or
Oh, yes, definitely. But purely from an SEO perspective. So, I mean, it used to be use like, 20 hashtags. Don't do that anymore. Use ones that are relevant to your search terms. Use them as an extra SEO tool. So think about the things you want people to search for and have it's just an extra way of getting your keywords in there. So I still find that content with hashtags does better than without it. I mean, hashtags now work differently. Just see them as a kind of way of getting extra visibility on your content in search and not how they used to be. So maybe pick like kind of five or six, three to six that are kind of relevant to what your content is about, and it just helps you be more discoverable.
yeah, no, great. God, there's quite a lot flying in, so you might have people coming to you with these later on. What would you suggest as how much content to be posting a week, for example?
Really good question. And by the way, if I don't get to anyone's questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram after this. Really good question. So I think that you need to do it post at least 3 times a week if you're really kind of serious about kind of growing and getting people to buy from you. I think I'm a real advocate of quality over quantity. I think it's much better to spend a bit of time on something and get decent reach in it than it is to just randomly post something every day because it's just exhausting. If you're growing a business, like you just haven't got time for that. And it's also demoralizing with stuff when people don't see stuff. So I try to do like three to 4 times a week, and I try and mix up that sales content with that growth content. I mean, if you look at my product business, you can see there are quite distinct bits of content, but sometimes they overlap. But sometimes if you want to really get high visibility, if you've got a launch coming up or your account is really stuck, you can do more than that. If you've got the capacity, absolutely post 5 times a week if you can. But you don't need
Yeah.
to post every day. You do not need to post multiple times a day. Look at your insights, look at your reach, look at what's working, and try and be strategic with it. It's not about the quantity of your content.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, even like if I follow a brand and if it can all there's a happy medium of there being almost too much because then you feel like
Definitely.
you see it every single
Well,
time you
that's the thing.
scroll.
You actually lose engagement from your followers if you post too much. So
Yeah.
I kind of think every other day is like quite a good thing to aim
Yeah.
for. I mean, I don't even manage that sometimes, and I grow pretty fast, so it's
Working.
just about what what you can manage. But I think you have to show up consistently if you
Yeah.
really do want it to work for you. So like, try and set yourself a target of like 3 times a week. And I think what I do on Business Secrets Clubs, I literally do it all in my spare time, apart from things like this, is I try and post between 7 and 8 a.m. like when my kids are sort of mooching up to sleep, or watching a bit of TV in the morning, and that's it. As a deadline, so I've got a deadline, and I'm not dwelling on it all day, and that kind of makes
Yeah,
me do it.
it's a good idea. Do you use any apps to schedule your content?
Yeah, so scheduling your content will not hurt your reach. That is absolutely true. So absolutely, if you want to schedule, you can. I tend to not schedule because that is like my engagement time. So I will have it ready. I'll know what time I'm posting it, and then I'll post it, and then I'll engage a bit in the comments, engage in stories, engage on DMs, and that's just my time on the app. So I tend not to really use scheduling stuff, I'll be honest, but I do sometimes schedule. I have been known to schedule in Instagram or through an app called Preview, which is the one I use to plan my grid. And but I more often than not don't schedule. But yeah, you can absolutely feel free to schedule. It doesn't hurt your content. I mean, there's so many of these apps out there. People can recommend them in the chat which ones they like.
Amazing. Someone asked, do you recommend collaborating with any other content creators ever?
Yeah, so collaborations are a great way of, obviously, if you collaborate, your content goes onto both people's feeds. And it can be a really good way to get extra visibility and reach. And you can use these quite strategically. So I use this, for example, I'm planning them now between now and Christmas for my product business. And I'm going to do a couple of strategic collaborations to help with businesses that have sort of got a similar target audience to me, either through a competition or through a kind of shared campaign. So I think try and do it with max two, because otherwise you don't see all of your names at the top of the screen. I know it's tempting to like whack all the collaborators on there because you can do up to
Yeah.
six. Like, try and do two max, otherwise you don't actually see the people who are collaborating. And pick accounts where they've got a crossover with you. It doesn't have to be the same niche, but just maybe where the target audience is aligned, and think about how you could potentially work together. Could be potentially with a bit of advice, could potentially with a competition, could be potentially with you make something together. Instagram lives are really good for that, and then you can kind of post the shared discussion on the grid. There's lots of different ways you can do collaborations, and yes, they're a brilliant way. Like when you're starting out, the lady that said that she was new, you want to make as much noise as you absolutely possibly can, and collaborations are a great way to do that. And one of the things I did when I first started my product business was I just knew I wanted to be visible. So I would
Yeah.
try and tag lots of other businesses. I'd buy other businesses' products and share them on my stories. I'd share them on my grid. I'd use them as props, and thinking about how you can get other people to post your content. So you could post one of my notebooks in a video, and I might put that in my newsletter, or I might put that on I might repost that to my followers. Like, look at the other brands that do that, and think, actually, how can I leapfrog on other people's platforms to get visibility for myself?
It's a good idea. Last one, because we're coming up to 11 o'clock. So, like Matt said, if you do want to get in touch with her, we'll send out your Instagram handle as well with our newsletter.
Perfect, thank you.
But the last one that had come in from a couple of people is, do you have any tips for improving the quality of your video when you upload, especially when using like front cameras? People find that sometimes once it's actually on the platform, it's not as clear as it was when they recorded it, or with the front camera, that it's just not as clear, obviously, as the back camera is.
Yeah. So yeah, make sure you've got high quality uploads turned on. I think what Instagram can do, and these platforms can do, is they can downrank your quality if your engagement's not very good. So I think really looking at those, some of the tips we've talked about today can really help. I think filming in that 30 frames per second and that 1080 or 4K will really help as well, because that's matched to what the way that these platforms are set up, and it stops it from being kind of compressed and looking horrible.
Yeah.
Definitely make sure you've got the high quality uploads turned on. Um, and trying to upload where you're on good Wi-Fi, because sometimes if you're on bad Wi-Fi, just for some reason it just doesn't work, does it? Even though you've got high quality uploads turned on, sometimes it can just compress your content. Um, I think those are the main things I would say. Um, I don't have any issues with my content being reduced in terms of quality, but if one is and you're not quite sure why, just DM me and we see if we can work it out. It could just be maybe there's been
Some kind of
historically not great
thing.
reach, and for some reason, and they have confirmed that they do that, which is very frustrating, I know. And the best thing to do is just to kind of keep going with that engaging content, and hopefully you'll get
Try
that.
and get there.
Yeah, but I do think that the pro cameras for iPhones definitely have better quality than the non-pro cameras. It doesn't really matter on the number of the model, but the Pro one really does make a difference.
Yeah, the ones with the
The
three,
extra
the extra
screens, yeah, the
camera.
extra cameras.
No, thank you. And honestly, that has been such an amazing session. And there is still more questions, but unfortunately, we just don't have
Oh, well, thank you
time.
so much to everyone for coming. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And if it didn't get to your question, please just feel free to message me. I'm really happy to help.
And we will send out the recording. So you never know, some of the questions might be answered in, like, when you watch it back, you might realize that there was just something that you maybe missed. So thank you, everybody. And we will send this out within the next 20